It was a rainy night. The narrow alleyway was filled with the sound of a downpour, mixed with the crackle of static from a radio. Calling Ellie. Calling Ellie. Do you copy? Hold on for 5 more minutes. We're almost there. Bodies were scattered across the ground, cold and lifeless. In the middle of the carnage, a humanoid creature covered in long, shaggy hair crouched over a corpse. It was digging out organs, tearing through flesh with its bare hands. The sound of the rain, the water rushing into the sewers, and the wet crunch of the creature chewing created a sickening symphony. In a dark corner, a woman leaned against the wall and forced herself to stand. She had short silver hair and features so perfect they seemed to blend the best of the East and West. She was tall, her curves defined by a tight leather suit. She leaned on a strange, blue-patterned blade for support. Her name was Ellie. She took a ragged breath and gripped her sword. A faint light flickered along the blade. The creature reached for another body on the ground. Captain Ellie. Save me. Please, the man whimpered in terror. Ellie gritted her teeth against the agonizing pain in her body. She swung her blade at the monster. Without even looking back, the creature threw a heavy punch. Ellie's slender body went flying. She slammed into a puddle, sending a spray of muddy water into the air. The strange watch on her wrist beeped. The 3 red dots on the display suddenly turned into 4. Her pale lips trembled. She struggled to move, but her strength was gone. She slumped into the mud, her eyes filled with despair. She pressed her earpiece. Level 4. It's a level 4, she whispered. What? Level 4? Ellie, we're on our way. Just hold on, the voice on the other end shouted. Ellie pulled off the earpiece and let it fall. She stared up at the pitch-black sky with hollow, ice-blue eyes. Too late, she muttered. Suddenly, a figure appeared beside her. She hadn't heard him approach. Ellie panicked, her hand instinctively reaching for her sword. The newcomer held an umbrella. The rain drummed rhythmically against the fabric. I looked down at her. I was wearing the uniform of the nearby No. 2 high school. Ellie grabbed my pant leg, her voice weak but urgent. Don't just stand there, run. Get out of here. The creature stopped eating. It turned its head, fixing its cold, vertical pupils on me. A long, blood-red tongue flicked out to lick its lips. It wiped its mouth and stood up, eyeing me like a delicious dessert. With a sudden burst of speed, the monster lunged. Mud splashed everywhere. I didn't move. I stood there like a statue. Ellie thought I was frozen in fear. She scrambled for her sword, but her hands only grasped at water. Run, she screamed with her last bit of strength. The monster was inches away, its claws swinging for my chest. I slowly tilted my umbrella back. Beneath my bangs, my dark eyes suddenly flared a deep, predatory crimson. I reached out. On my knuckles, blood-red runes flickered to life, pulsing with a thirst for slaughter. My hand moved like a blur. Before the creature could react, I caught it by the throat. It happened so fast the monster was still in its mid-attack pose. For a second, even the rain seemed to stop mid-air. I bent my knees, loading power into my legs, and then I exploded forward. Boom. I slammed the creature into the brick wall. The impact was so violent the masonry buckled, forming a crater on the other side. The monster coughed up blood and bits of its own organs. It slid down the wall and collapsed into the mud, its head lolling lifelessly. The heavy rain resumed its downpour. I raised my hand and made a grasping motion in the air. A tiny, almost invisible speck of blood flew from the corpse and sank into the runes on my knuckles. The runes glowed once and vanished. My hand looked normal again. My eyes faded back to black. I turned to look at Ellie. She was lying in the rain, her beautiful face twisted in utter shock. Her ice-blue eyes reflected my masked face. I gave her a cold, indifferent glance. To me, she was just another person. I didn't say a word and started to walk away. I'm badly hurt, she called out, her voice trembling. Can you drag me over there to get out of the rain? I stopped and turned my head slightly. You're asking for a favor, and you won't even use a polite sir? Ellie blinked, startled. Please, sir, could you move me over there? I walked over. Ellie lifted her arms, clearly expecting me to carry her like a princess. But I've always been a literal person. She asked to be dragged, so I grabbed her by the back of her collar and dragged her across the pavement. I left her under the eaves of a nearby shop. Her backside hit the stone steps with a dull thud. She pouted, looking a bit pained, but she didn't complain. "Thank you," she said sincerely. As I turned to leave, she called out again. "My name is Ellie. Can I ask, what is your name?" "Qin Juanhao," I replied. "Is that your real name?" "I have no reason to lie," I said. "Qin Juanhao. That's me." Before she could ask anything else, I disappeared into the rainy night. A few minutes later, several cars swerved into the alley. A man in a fedora and a trench coat jumped out. He saw the bodies and his face went pale with anxiety. He checked his watch, tracking Ellie's signal, and ran to her side. He immediately pulled out a syringe and injected her with a glowing fluid. Some color finally returned to Ellie's pale face. "Where is the level 4 mutant?" the man asked urgently. "Captain, look at this," a team member shouted, pointing a flashlight at the wall. The captain stared at the mangled corpse of the monster and gasped. "Ellie, who did this? Who could kill a mutant that just broke into level 4? In a small place like Lawn City, someone this powerful shouldn't be a nobody." "It was a high school student," Ellie whispered. "A high schooler?" The captain froze. "Are you sure? He was wearing the number 2 high school uniform. I saw it clearly." "My God," the captain muttered. "If that's true, he must have an SSS class talent. And even among SSS classes, he'd be at the very top." He grabbed Ellie's shoulder. "Did you get a name?" He said his name is Qin Juanhao. The captain's eyes lit up with excitement. "Qin Juanhao. I'll have people check the school records immediately. If this is real, we've found a treasure. A genius like that would be a monster even on a national level. The first round of talent testing starts in 2 days. I have to be there personally. We can't let the 9th Bureau snatch him away. They always steal the best ones." "Qin Juanhao," Ellie repeated, rubbing her sore backside as she watched the rain. "I definitely won't forget him." I arrived home and shook the water off my umbrella. As soon as I opened the door, voices drifted from the kitchen. My aunt, Fong Huilan, was sitting there with her family of 4. On the table, next to some simple home-cooked food, were 2 vials of strange, pale blue liquid. My aunt's youngest daughter, Jiang Xiaoyu, stared at the 2 vials and huffed. "Mom," she complained, "there are 3 of us who need this. How can there be only 2 vials?" Jiang Xiaoyu's voice was sharp. "The talent testing is right around the corner. I can't do it without the serum." She slammed her hand on the table. "My classmate's dad used his connections to buy him 10 bottles. 10. Now, almost everyone in my class has them, except for the poor kids." My aunt, Fong Huilan, looked at her daughter with an apologetic expression. "Xiaoyu, these things are in high demand. Your father and I had to pull a lot of favors just to get these 2. They cost a fortune." She glanced at the rest of us. "We discussed it. You're still young. We think you should skip this year's test. Let your older sister and Fong Xin take it instead. We'll buy you 2 fresh ones next year, okay?" "No," Jiang Xiaoyu shrieked. She glared at me, her eyes full of venom. "So you're saying one of these should have been mine, but Fong Xin is stealing it?" "Xiaoyu, watch your tone," Fong Huilan warned. "Am I wrong?" Xiaoyu stood up, her face flushed with anger. "You're just biased toward your orphan nephew. He eats our food, lives in our house, and now he's taking things that belong to me? Does he have no shame at all? That's enough." Xiaoyu turned to her father, Jiang Weidong, with tears in her eyes. "Dad, say something. Why should my share go to Fong Xin? If we hadn't taken in this stray dog, he would have starved to death long ago." Jiang Weidong looked at the 2 vials on the table and sighed. "Huilan, maybe we should give Fong Xin's portion to Xiaoyu. She's our flesh and blood, after all. We've already done more than enough for the boy." "No," Fong Huilan snapped. "The talent test determines his entire future. If his talent is high enough, the state will take care of him. My brother and his wife serve this country. If Fong Xin can follow in their footsteps, they would be proud." Jiang Weidong slammed the table. "I don't care. Is your nephew a treasure while my daughter is trash? I'm the head of this house. Without us, Fong Xin would be nothing but a beggar on the street." The eldest daughter, Jiang Xiaocha, finally looked up from her meal. She pushed her glasses up the bridge of her nose. "Actually," she said calmly, "everything we eat, use, and even this roof over our heads belong to Fong Xin's parents. Without them, we would be the beggars. And if I'm not mistaken, The money for those serums came from the inheritance my uncle and aunt left for him. Jiang Weidong choked on his words, his face turning a deep shade of red. That money is long gone. Xiaoyu screamed. He's lived here so long that the labor costs for taking care of him have already canceled it out. I don't care, this serum is mine. I told everyone at school my parents were buying me one. I won't let them laugh at me. She grabbed one of the vials and clutched it to her chest. Just then, I walked through the front door. The house went silent as they all turned to look at me. Fong Huilan stood up quickly, trying to hide the tension. Fong Xian, you're back, she said, her voice trembling slightly. It's dangerous out there at night. Why are you so late? I kicked off my shoes. I was at the bookstore. Come, sit down and eat. Jiang Xiaoyu rolled her eyes at me and muttered under her breath, shameless brat. I ignored her. I had heard everything from the hallway. When my parents died, they left behind a massive fortune. It had brought out the worst in my relatives. Everyone wanted a piece of the inheritance. I had learned the truth about people a long time ago. After my parents passed, I lived with my grandfather for a while. He told me things the history books didn't mention. He told me about a mad scientist at the turn of the century who discovered the world was changing. Human genes were mutating under an unknown power. At first, people laughed. Then, people started lifting one-ton weights with one hand. Others summoned lightning or turned invisible. Everything changed. As power grew, so did greed. Awakened humans split into two factions, the Holy Light and the Evernight. They fought until the War of the Gods at the end of the last century, leaving the world in a fragile peace. Now, awakening was a regulated process. Every high school student underwent talent testing. The grades went from level 1 to SSS. In a country of millions, fewer than 20 SSS-class geniuses were found each year. They were the elite, destined for greatness. I didn't know what my official grade would be, but I knew my strength. Based on the awakened scales, I was already at level 4. In the history of our country, only 2 people had ever reached level 4 at my age. Both were SSS-class monsters. My specific power was the slaughter talent. Since my parents died, I found that I could increase my strength through combat. I had even unlocked a secondary strength talent because of it. When I told my grandfather, he didn't sleep for a week. He just sat in the yard, smoking and whispering about fate and Ragnarok. Before he disappeared, he gave me a pendant to wear around my neck. He told me it would hide my true power from any testing equipment. Shortly after he went missing, my uncle Jiang Weidong went bankrupt and ended up buried in debt. He begged me for help. Back then, he acted like a decent human being. I used my inheritance to clear his debts and let his family move into my parents' house. Fong Huilan handed me a bowl of rice and ruffled my hair. Fong Xian, I heard from a friend that you ranked second in the last exams. Is that true? Yeah, I replied. My boy is so smart, she said softly. Being smart is useless now, Xiaoyu scoffed. The world has changed. Talent is everything. If your brain doesn't work, you're just high-quality cannon fodder, Xiaochao retorted, not looking up from her food. Fong Huilan ignored the bickering. Fong Xian, the test is in a few days. I bought you a serum. Xiaoyu, give it to your brother. Xiaoyu tucked the vial deeper into her shirt. No, this is mine. Before my aunt could argue, Xiaochao wiped her mouth. She took the vial sitting in front of her and pushed it across the table toward me. Here, brother, she said. This one is yours. I'm finished eating. Xiaochao didn't wait for a response. She just stood up and headed back to her room. Xiaochao, Fong Huilan called out, her voice filled with worry, but the door had already clicked shut. Jiang Xiaoyu couldn't hide her smirk. Mom, if she doesn't want the medicine, that's her problem. My aunt stared at the closed door with a complicated expression. My uncle, Jiang Weidong, set down his chopsticks and sat sideways, leaning away from the table. He shot me a cold glare before snapping his newspaper open. Fong Xian, he barked. Yeah. I looked up. This serum wasn't easy to get, he said, shaking the newspaper for emphasis. He tapped his finger hard against the table. Asterisk thud. 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 Asterisk, do you have any idea how much I had to swallow my pride? I called in every favor I had to get my hands on those vials. I just stared at him. Seeing my lack of reaction, his face reddened. I'm warning you, don't you dare waste it. This was my hard work. If you don't show me some real results, you can pack your bags and get out of my house. I didn't say a word. He stood up so fast his chair nearly toppled. He pointed a finger at me, stabbing the air in frustration, before slamming the newspaper onto the table. As he walked toward his bedroom, he went out of his way to kick the trash can, sending it skidding across the floor. Fong Huilan gritted her teeth and followed him into the bedroom, slamming the door behind her. Immediately, I heard her shouting, "Jiang Weidong, what is wrong with you?" "What's wrong with me?" His voice boomed, loud enough for me to hear every word. "Look at him. He's got no manners. Is that how you talk to your elders? I want to see what kind of talent he awakens after stealing my daughter's medicine." Jiang Xiaoyu chewed her food, swaying her head triumphantly. "Fong Xian, I asked some seniors about the test. Being smart doesn't mean you'll have talent. Some of the top students in school didn't even awaken. If you end up with a trash tier level 1 talent, I'm going to laugh at you for the next 2 years." I took a calm bite of rice. Between the two sisters, I actually liked Xiaocha. She was polite, studious, and kind, just like my aunt. Xiaoyu, on the other hand, had perfectly inherited her father's shallow, arrogant genes. I looked at Xiaoyu and smiled. "Don't worry. Even the dead skin on my heels has more talent than you." "Gross," she hissed, looking at me with pure disgust. "We'll see who's laughing on testing day." She grabbed her vial and stormed off to her room. A moment later, my aunt stepped out of her bedroom. Her eyes were red, and she was twisting her apron between her hands. She looked toward Xiaocha's door, hesitated, then walked over and knocked softly. "Xiaocha, can Mom come in and talk to you?" "I'm sleeping, Mom." Xiaocha's voice came through the wood. "We can talk tomorrow." Fong Huilan sighed and walked back to the table. She stared at the remaining vial. In this world, awakened were everything. They monopolized all the high-paying jobs. People like her and Jiang Weidong were stuck with scraps. "Fong Xian, ignore what your uncle said," she whispered. "Just do your best. Show him my nephew isn't a loser." I felt a pang of pity for her. My aunt was a saint married to a coward. Since my parents died, she had taken care of me like I was her own. "It's okay, Auntie. I'm full." I stood up to take my dishes to the sink, but she gently patted my shoulder. "Go to your room and study. I'll wash up." Back in my room, my phone was vibrating like crazy. The class group chat was exploding with over 99 notifications. Our homeroom teacher, Chung Won, had just announced that the talent test was happening in 2 days. He advised anyone who could afford it to buy a SpaceX serum. It was a potency drug developed by the Leon Corporation to maximize a person's awakening potential. Because the powerful families and corporations hoarded 80% of the supply, only 20% ever reached the common people. Using it could boost your success rate by 10 to 15%, the equivalent of a massive head start. Since the rules had changed recently, students could test twice before graduation. That's why Xiaoyu, a sophomore, was so desperate to try now. If she got a high rank, she'd get a government stipend immediately. The chat was being dominated by a guy named Qin Juanhao. His nickname was just your average rich kid. He wasn't smart or handsome, but his dad was a local tycoon. Qin Juanhao lived to brag. Ever since he bullied a poor student to death a year ago and got away with it thanks to his dad's connections, I couldn't stand the sight of him. He posted a dozen photos of a luxury case filled with vials. "Ugh, my dad is so annoying," Qin Juanhao messaged. I told him I didn't want them, but he bought me 20 vials anyway. And don't judge the background. This is my bodyguard's room. My bedroom isn't this basic. Then he tagged the class beauty, Chu Xinyao. "Xinyao, did you get your serum yet? If you're short, I'll have my security team hand-deliver 2 to your house." Chu Xinyao's reply was ice-cold. "I don't need it." Shut down. Qin Juanhao immediately turned his sights on me. He hated me because I was better looking and had better grades. "Hey Fong Xian," he tagged me. "I heard someone saw your aunt and uncle at the pharmacy. They only managed to get 2 vials, right? Money isn't enough for these. You need connections. You have 2 sisters, don't you? 3 kids, 2 vials. That math doesn't look good. If you beg me, maybe I'll sell you 1." I was about to fire back when a new message popped up. Chu Xinyao tagged me. "Fong Xian, I actually have an extra serum. Come to my house to pick it up? Or if you're busy, I can bring it to you." Asterisk. The group went silent. The flirtatious tone was obvious to everyone. I smiled. Xinyao and I had been in the same class since kindergarten. We went way back. "Thanks, But I'm good, Xinyao, I replied. Qin Juanhao lost it. Asterisk Xinyao. He said no. I want it. Give it to me. Asterisk. A notification appeared. Qin Juanhao has been muted by admin Chu Xinyao for 30 minutes. The rich kid was probably throwing a tantrum in his luxury bedroom, but I didn't care. I had work to do. Chu Xinyao continued to ignore Qin Juanhao, which clearly cut the rich kid deep. Seeing her treat me so well only made him more desperate to target me. Once Xinyao muted him, the group chat finally quieted down, and the conversation shifted back to the upcoming tests. One classmate mentioned that at the high school next door, a student had awakened an A-rank mental type talent. Apparently, several special departments were already fighting over him. I listened to them talk about their dreams of hitting a B rank, while others speculated on who in our class would come out on top. Most of them bet on me since my grades were always the best. Of course, Qin Juanhao's loyal lapdog, Su Xiaoqiang, had to chime in. He argued that plenty of top students ended up having zero talent, and he insisted his boss Qin was the only real powerhouse. Our homeroom teacher, Chung Wenjin, eventually stepped in to calm everyone down. She told us to keep a level head and reminded us that even if the first test didn't go well, we'd have more chances. She told us to get some sleep. I put my phone down and lifted my hand, staring at my palm. Slowly, my pupils shifted into a deep, starlit crimson. Across my knuckles, over a dozen blood-red runes flickered into existence. 4 of them glowed with an intense, murderous light. Years ago, when my grandfather ran a small restaurant in town, I was helping him kill chickens when I first unlocked this slaughter talent. I realized that through killing, my overall stats, strength, speed, agility, and senses, all steadily increased. But the most terrifying part was my self-healing ability. Later, I crossed paths with deviants, awakeners who let their desires turn them into monsters. After I was forced to kill one in self-defense, I discovered that hunting deviants boosted my power significantly more than anything else. I've been hunting them ever since. By now, my combat strength is at the absolute ceiling for my level. Best of all, as long as I don't actively show it, no one can detect my slaughter talent. My grandfather warned me to keep it hidden, so I decided that for the official test, I'd only reveal the raw strength I'd gained from it. It wasn't as impressive as the runes, but it was still formidable. The next morning, I headed to school after breakfast. The classroom was buzzing. Everyone had arrived early. I barely had time to sit down before our teacher, Chung Wenjin, walked in wearing a graceful dress. She told us not to be nervous and to wait for her signal before injecting the serum. Then she asked if anyone was still missing their vial. Qin Juanhao flipped his hair and looked over at me with a smug, fake smile. Fong Xian, the teacher is talking to you, he sneered. Before I could say a word, the girl sitting in front of me, a pretty girl with a round face named Xiao Yuan, reached into her bag. She pulled out a vial and set it on my desk with a sweet smile, showing off 2 cute dimples. Teacher, I brought one for Fong Xian, she said. Qin Juanhao's face instantly soured. Teacher Chung just smiled, telling us again to stay relaxed. She told us we were all dragons among men, and that maybe someone would even hit an S rank. That'll definitely be Fong Xian, someone shouted. Shut up. It'll be Brother Hao. Su Xiaoqiang barked back. In the middle of the noise, the door opened. Our principal stood there, but he wasn't alone. Behind him stood a man in a trench coat and fedora, and a woman with short silver hair and piercing ice blue eyes. The principal gestured for the door to be closed and peered through the window. Teacher Chung, he whispered. Which one is Qin Juanhao? Teacher Chung looked confused, but pointed toward Qin Juanhao's seat. The man in the fedora leaned in to look, then turned to the silver-haired woman. Ai Li, is that him? He asked. Ai Li stared through the glass at Qin Juanhao. I was wearing a mask and nearly unconscious at the time, so I didn't see his face clearly, she murmured. But the height and build match up. Teacher Chung couldn't hold back her curiosity. Principal, who are these people? The principal smiled. These 2 are from the 7th office. This is Mr. Xiao, and this is Ms. Ai Li. Teacher Chung gasped. The 7th office? Were they here to scout Qin Juanhao before the test results were even in? Mr. Xiao raised a hand, signaling that it was classified, but he couldn't hide the smug look on his face. He looked like a man who had just intercepted a rare treasure. As they turned to leave, AI Lee's gaze suddenly swept across the room and landed on me. The moment she had walked in, I realized the world was way too small. I had quickly brushed my hair down to cover my forehead and borrowed my roommate's glasses to hide my face. "What is it, AI Lee?" Mr. Xiao asked. "Nothing," she replied, shaking it off. As they walked down the hall, Mr. Xiao was in high spirits. He started venting about the ninth office, how they were trying to delay the test results just so they could poach the best talents first. He laughed, thinking about how he was going to sign Qin Juanhao the second the test ended, just to rub it in their faces. Back in the classroom, the place exploded. The students near the door had overheard the principal asking for Qin Juanhao and mentioned the seventh office. "Holy crap, the seventh office?" someone whispered. "My cousin is there. That's the Heavenly Shield Bureau. They only scout people early if they're legendary talents." The room was in awe. The Heavenly Shield Bureau was the official organization that handled deviants, divided into 9 special offices. Even if the 7th office wasn't in the top 3, being scouted by them was a one-way ticket to the top of the world. Everyone looked at Qin Juanhao like he was already a god. "But that's still the Heavenly Shield Bureau," a student whispered, his voice trembling with excitement. "Their threshold is insane. They only recruit B ranks at the minimum." "B rank just to get in the door?" another chimed in. "That's nothing. My cousin told me the 9th office is the real deal. They call it the Monster House. It's packed with geniuses, and their entry requirement is S rank." "S rank? Man, we can only dream of that." Su Xiaoqiang, Qin Juanhao's loyal lackey, immediately started sucking up. "Holy crap, Brother Hao. You're set. Who cares which office it is? Being scouted early makes you the biggest deal in school. I kept telling everyone you were the best, and they didn't believe me." "Who's laughing now?" Qin Juanhao looked a bit dazed himself. He hadn't expected this much attention. "Brother Hao, how did they find you?" someone asked, hoping for a tip. "Give us a hint so we can try to catch up." Honestly, Qin Juanhao didn't have a clue. But Su Xiaoqiang was quick to fill in the blanks. "Do you even need to ask? Brother Hao's family is powerful. He definitely knows people in the bureau." The realization hit Qin Juanhao like a bolt of lightning. He puffed out his chest. "Right? My dad knows them. I remember now. He had dinner with some high-ranking officials recently." "Hear that?" Su Xiaoqiang sneered at the crowd. "That's what you call a legacy. Even if he told you how to do it, you couldn't pull it off." Qin Juanhao's lips curled into a smug grin. "Xiaoqiang, stop. We're all classmates. Don't hurt their self-esteem too much." As he spoke, he glanced toward Chu Xinyao out of the corner of his eye. Su Xiaoqiang caught the hint immediately. "Class beauty Chu, did you see Brother Hao's strength?" Chu Xinyao just gave a dismissive tch. She didn't look impressed. They just looked at him. Who knows what's actually happening? For all we know, his dad broke the law and they're here to arrest him. Su Xiaoqiang choked on his words. When it came to family background, Chu Xinyao wasn't lacking. Everyone knew her mother was the director of the Power Bureau. Nobody knew what her father did, but rumors said he was a high-ranking official elsewhere. Qin Juanhao's bragging meant nothing to her. She turned to me, waving a hand in front of my face. "You don't even wear glasses. Why are you putting those on?" I smiled and handed the glasses back to my roommate. "Just wanted to see what it felt like." I glanced out the window. Mr. Xiao and AI Li were already far away. I hadn't expected to run into them here. Luckily, it had been pouring rain that day. I was wearing a mask, and AI Li had been badly injured. If she had recognized me, things would have gotten complicated. My talent was strange. I had searched for it online and found nothing. If the authorities found out, would they take me away for experiments? The classroom was still buzzing when our teacher, Cheng Wenjin, walked in. He gave Qin Juanhao a long, meaningful look. "Teacher, what did those people say?" someone shouted. "Is Brother Hao getting a special recruitment spot in the 7th office?" Su Xiaoqiang asked eagerly. Cheng Wenjin put a finger to his lips, smiling. "It's a secret." That smile was all the confirmation the class needed. The room exploded. "Brother Hao, you're a legend." Qin Juanhao was visibly shaking with excitement. "Listen up. If I get into the 7th office after the test, drinks are on me. We're going to the best place in town. Brother Hao is the man." Su Xiaoqiang screamed until his voice cracked. I watched Qin Juanhao celebrate like he'd already won. I couldn't help but think that the higher he climbed now, the harder he'd fall if his test results didn't match the hype. Chu Xinyao turned around in her seat, resting her chin on a pile of books on my desk. Fong Xin, ignore them. Let them play their games. Do you have time after the test? A new aquarium-themed park just opened. I really want to go. Will you come with me? We'll see, I replied. I'm not sure yet. Okay, she said, flashing a sweet smile that showed off two cute little fangs. But once you're free, we're going. No backing out. Fine. Chung Wenjin checked his phone and stood up. All right, everyone. Grab your student IDs. Stay in order. The talent test is about to begin. We lined up in a long queue. The air was thick with tension. In this world, awakened ones held all the power. For ordinary people, life was a struggle. If you could just hit a D-rank talent, you'd have a guaranteed career for life. The testing area was split into sections. Chu Xingyao stood right behind me, playfully tracing patterns on my back with her finger and making me guess what she was drawing. I looked toward the testing zone. It was surrounded by people in uniforms. Some were government officials, others were scouts from powerful families and massive organizations. Everyone wanted the best talent. Qin Juanhao was scanning the crowd, looking for the two people from the 7th office. Brother Hao, over there. Su Xiaoqiang pointed. Mr. Xiao and AI Li were standing tall, looking sharp in their uniforms. So cool, Su Xiaoqiang whispered. You'll be just like them soon. Don't forget about me when you're famous. Don't worry, Qin Juanhao said, throwing an arm over his shoulder. I've got you. Suddenly, the crowd went quiet. Two people were walking toward us. Leading the way was a tall, lean guy with white hair and sunglasses, his hands stuffed in his pockets. Behind him was a beautiful girl sucking on a lollipop and carrying a metallic briefcase. As they passed, every official stood at attention. The non-government scouts bowed their heads. Even Mr. Xiao and AI Li from the 7th office straightened up and gave a formal salute. The white-haired guy didn't even blink. He just walked right through the crowd and into a classroom. Who are they? Someone whispered. Even the 7th office had to salute. The 9th office, another student replied, his voice full of awe. Did you see the 9-dragon totem on that girl's briefcase? That's their mark. They have the highest authority. In an emergency, they can command the other 8 offices. I'd give anything to join them. I watched them disappear into the room. Even though they weren't releasing any aura, my instincts, honed by countless battles, were screaming. They were dangerous. Especially the white-haired guy. I felt like he could kill me with a single thought. Based on what I'd researched, my physical power talent should be at least S rank. If I showed that, the 9th office would definitely take me. But if they discovered my slaughter talent, would they see me as a monster? Would they put me on a literal chopping block to study me? I had already decided. I wouldn't use any enhancers today. I needed to stay off the radar of the high-level officials. I'd save the potion for my sister, Jiang Xiaocha, later tonight. Next group, a voice called out. Have your IDs ready. If you have enhancers, inject them now. Enter the testing area, in order. I watched the first few students walk into the classrooms where the massive testing machines waited. My turn was coming. Students started filing into the testing rooms. The process usually only took a few minutes, but our teacher, Chung Wenjin, had just dropped a bombshell. The results wouldn't be announced today. We had to wait 24 hours. You could feel the collective anxiety in the air. Waiting is always the hardest part. Qin Juanhao didn't seem worried. He kept glancing over at Mr. Xiao from the 7th office. When Mr. Xiao caught his eye, he actually smiled and nodded. Brother Hao. He nodded at you. Su Xiaoqiang, Qin's loyal lapdog, practically vibrated with excitement. He turned to the rest of us, shouting, Did you all see that? The 7th office official just acknowledged my brother Hao. Qin Juanhao tried to play it cool, but his smirk was wider than a highway. Stay low-key, he told Su Xiaoqiang, though his voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. We don't even know my rank yet. He looked over at me and Chu Xinyao. We were busy playing a drawing game on each other's backs, completely ignoring him. That clearly rubbed him the wrong way. I wonder what kind of talent some people will get, Qin Juanhao sneered, eyeing me. I heard that smart students sometimes overthink the test and fail. There was this top student once who ended up with an A-rank excavator talent. Fong Xin, maybe you'll be a natural at digging holes. I didn't even look up. Better than an A-rank simp talent, I replied calmly. The truth hurts more than a lie. That one sentence shattered his ego instantly. His face turned a deep shade of purple. Su Xiaoqiang started rubbing Qin's chest like he was trying to prevent a heart attack. Don't let him get to you, brother Hao, Su Xiaoqiang hissed. You're going to the 7th office. Once you're in, you can crush him with one phone call. Qin Ju and Hao let out a cold laugh. Just wait. I'll deal with you later. Chu Xinyao poked me in the back, her eyes worried. Where's the potion I gave you? I forgot it, I lied. You what? She pouted, her face full of frustration. How could you be so careless at a time like this? Before I could stop her, she shoved her own potion into my hand and turned to run back to the classroom to grab the one she thought I'd left behind. I grabbed her arm and pulled her back. It's too late, I said softly, giving her a reassuring smile. Our names are about to be called. If you miss the window, they'll disqualify you. But Fong Xin. It's fine, I interrupted. If it doesn't work out today, there's always next time. Up ahead, Cheng Wenjin started calling names. Qin Juanhao, Su Xiaoqiang, Zhang Haoyu, Fong Xin, Chu Xinyao. I gave Chu Xinyao a thumbs up and walked toward the testing area. In the distance, I saw Mr. Xiao grinning as he watched Qin Juanhao enter. Quick, get the contract ready, Mr. Xiao whispered to AI Li. The moment he steps out, we sign him. The 9th office has been the boss for too long. It's time the 7th office showed some spine. I stepped into a massive white machine. I swiped my ID, and red lights began scanning my body. I instinctively reached up and touched the pendant my grandfather had given me. Inside a nearby darkened room, the white-haired man from the 9th office leaned back in his chair. The girl with the briefcase opened her laptop. A hidden camera projected the testing feeds onto the wall. Suddenly, a sharp, piercing beep echoed through the room. The white-haired man stopped rocking his chair. He stared at the screen displaying my booth. A data box flashed, and then the text stabilized. Name, Fong Xin. Talent 1, Strength, SS rank, no enhancers. Talent 2, Perception, S rank, no enhancers. Talent 3, Beast Mastery, S rank, no enhancers. Talent 4, Light, a rank, no enhancers. Talent 5, Mental, a rank, no enhancers. Overall combat assessment, level 3. The girl looked up, her eyes wide with shock. To hit SS rank without a single drop of enhancer was unheard of. And 5 talents? Usually, students were lucky to have one. With a potion, those ranks would have jumped even higher. A level 3 combat rating for a student was like finding a diamond in a coal mine. The white-haired man slowly slid his sunglasses down. His eyes glowed with a terrifying white light, like a storm trapped in his pupils. A slow, predatory smile spread across his face. Fong Xin, he whispered. The 9th office wants you. Inside the booth, the machine chimed. Test complete. Please exit. I grabbed my ID and walked out. I knew the school wouldn't announce scores until the day after tomorrow, but the major agencies always found a way to see the results early. They'd be hunting for recruits tonight. Usually, the 9th office got first pick, though they were limited to 3 S ranks per district to keep things fair. I touched my pendant again. This charm was supposed to mask my slaughter talent. Based on my research, I figured my base strength would show up as an S rank. Since I didn't use the potion, I expected the machine to read it as a high A rank. That was my plan. Be good enough to get a decent job, but not good enough to attract the monsters from the 9th office. As I walked back to the field, the crowd erupted. Mr. Xiao had practically tackled Qin Juanhao the second he stepped out, dragging him into a private room. Brother Hao is a legend. Su Xiaoqiang screamed, whistling loudly. Qin Juanhao stopped pretending to be humble. He waved to the crowd like a king returning from war. Back in the dark room, the white-haired man looked out the window at the commotion. What is that idiot from the 7th office doing? The girl checked her screen, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. He's signing a student early. Apparently, he thinks he's stealing a prize from under our noses. The man scratched his nose. Doesn't he know we brought the upgraded scanners this year? What's the kid's rank? C rank naturally, she said, unimpressed. He used a massive dose of enhancers to fake a B rank. The white-haired man stretched his arms and yawned. Garbage. Anyway, get the contract ready for Fong Xin. We'll head to his house tonight around dinner time. Maybe we can catch a free meal while we sign him. I walked back to my class line, listening to everyone gossip about Qin Juanhao's success. They all thought he'd just secured a golden future. They had no idea the real storm was coming to my front door. Joining the Bureau of Heavenly Order was a dream for most. Even if it wasn't the elite ninth office, it was still a mark of supreme honor. As the crowd buzzed, Chu Xinyao grabbed my arm. Fong Xin, let's go sit over there. It's too noisy here. I hesitated. I need to go back to the classroom first. Then I have to find my sister in class 8. What for? She asked, her lip curling into a pout. To give her the potion. Chu Xinyao huffed, realizing why I hadn't used her gift. So you saved it for her? Do you really hate using my things that much? If she needed one, I could have just given you another. We've known each other since kindergarten, Fong Xin. Stop being so polite. If you want something, just ask. If I have it, it's yours. She stood on her tiptoes and poked my forehead with a pale, slender finger. I raised an eyebrow. Anything. Anything. Then can you do a formal kowtow for me? I joked. Fong Xin. She pinched the back of my waist hard enough to make me jump. I grabbed the potion and headed to class 8. There were no lessons today, so the hallways were a mess of shouting students. Inside the classroom, everyone was gossiping about the talent test. Almost every desk had an empty potion vial on it. Jiang Xiaocha sat by the window, wearing headphones and buried in a book. I called her name. Her seatmate nudged her, and she looked up, adjusted her glasses, and hurried out. Brother? Is your test over? Yeah, I said, handing her the vial. This is for you. She froze. She recognized the bottle immediately. It was the one from last night. You didn't use it? I forgot, I lied. Just take it. She looked down, biting her lip. Brother? Thank you. Don't be weird about it, I said, flicking her forehead. She looked up at me, her eyes turning red. I know you saved it for me. Hey, if I wasn't going to use it, I would have just given it back last night. I only kept it then to annoy your dad. I scratched my face awkwardly. Chu Xinyao was standing nearby, and the two girls shared a brief, polite nod before I headed back to my own class. Inside, Qin Juanhao was standing on the teacher's podium. He looked like he'd just won the lottery. Listen up, everyone. Since you saw it, I won't hide it anymore. I've been recruited by the 7th office. My dad is so happy he's donating a new building to the school in our class's name. The room erupted in cheers. Also, Qin Juanhao continued, my dad booked a place for the day after tomorrow. I'll send my private drivers to pick you all up. Everything is on me. He turned his gaze toward Chu Xinyao. Xinyao, you have to come. Sorry, she said without looking up. Fong Xin and I already made plans to go to the aquarium. Qin Juanhao choked on his words. He tried to say something else, but Chu Xinyao just put her headphones back on. He sat down, his face twisting into a mask of pure malice. He glared at me like he wanted to skin me alive. I saw him pull out his phone and fire off a text. Asterisk Dad, buy out the city aquarium for the day. I want to have a party there. Asterisk. The testing lasted until the end of the day. Suddenly, news broke that some genius had leaked the results online. A spreadsheet was circulating through the school group chats. I scrolled through it, looking for my name, but I couldn't find it. However, I did find my cousin's results. Name, Jiang Xiaocha. Talent 1, Mental, A rank. Talent 2, Healing, C rank. Name, Jiang Xiaoyu. Talent, Beast Taming, C rank. When I got home, the atmosphere was electric. My aunt, Fong Huilan, was busy in the kitchen, a massive smile on her face. My uncle, Jiang Weidong, had pulled out a bottle of his finest hidden liquor. He was drinking and slapping his thigh in delight. Jiang Xiaoyu was sprawled arrogantly on the sofa, legs crossed like she owned the world. Jiang Xiaocha sat quietly at the table, reading. Xiao Xian is back. Aunt Huilan wiped her hands on her apron. I'm making all your favorites tonight. Chicken, duck, fish, everything. Jiang Xiaoyu sat up abruptly. Mom, why are you making his favorites? My sister and I are the heroes today. Aunt Huilan just laughed. Both her daughters had scored well, especially Xiaocha. Organizations would be begging to recruit her. You're all my babies, she said. Whatever, Xiaoyu hissed. Who knows if your precious nephew turned out to be a genius or just garbage? Watch your mouth. Huilan scolded. Your brother will do just fine. No bad vibes today. Xiao Xine, sit down. Dinner is almost ready. Jiang Weidong cleared his throat loudly. He placed his phone on the table, displaying the girl's results. Take a look, Fong Xin. See what your sisters achieved. I glanced at the screen. They did great. Great. Jiang Weidong took a heavy swig of liquor. Xiaocha is A rank. Do you know what that means? Most people have to beg for a spot. My daughter gets to choose where she goes. That's the gap between people, understand? You're right, uncle, I said, trying to keep the peace. He slammed his glass down. The alcohol was clearly hitting him. He pointed a shaking finger at me. If you hadn't stolen that potion from Xiaocha, her results would have been even better. You remember this, Fong Xin. You owe my daughter. You owe her for the rest of your life. Jiang Weidong, my aunt snapped. Don't say such horrible things on a happy day. Horrible. He stood up, slamming the table. I'm telling the truth. My daughter was generous enough to give him that potion. If she'd kept it, she might have been S rank. You ruined her future, Fong Xin. You can never repay her. Slam. Jiang Xiaocha hit the table so hard my uncle flinched. He looked at her, his voice suddenly softening. What is it, Xiaocha? Did I scare you? I'm just worried his score was a waste of that potion. Jiang Xiaocha didn't say a word. She pulled an empty glass injector from her pocket and slammed it onto the table. She stared her father down, her eyes burning with anger. Fong Xin gave the potion back to me, she said, her voice trembling. I used it. I'm the one who owes him. Our whole family owes him. The room went silent. Everyone stared at the empty vial. My uncle's face went pale. He knew that specific injector. He knew Xiaocha wouldn't lie about this. I hadn't used the potion. I had given my only chance at a future to her. Aunt Huilan grabbed the vial, her hands shaking. She turned to me, grabbing my arms, her eyes flooding with tears. She started hitting my arm weakly. Why? You foolish child. Why would you do that? That was yours. Why did you give it to her? She started sobbing, her lips trembling. Auntie, it's fine, I said softly. I don't need a potion to be strong. She just wiped her eyes, unable to speak. I'm so sorry, Fong Xin, Aunt Huilan sobbed, her voice thick with guilt. I've failed you. I've really failed you. Jiang Xiaoyu sat nearby, loudly snapping her chewing gum. Mom, stop it. You're ruining the mood. Even if Fong Xin used the potion, it's not like he'd be better than my sister anyway. Besides, he gave it to her voluntarily. Nobody forced him. Jiang Xiaoyu, have some heart. Xiaocha snapped, her voice trembling with rage. Xiaoyu rolled her eyes. He said it himself, didn't he? He doesn't need it. Why are you worrying about him? He lives in our house and eats our food. If anyone needs to show some gratitude, it's him. Slap. The sound echoed through the room. Xiaocha's hand had connected squarely with Xiaoyu's face. It was a clean, sharp strike. Xiaoyu froze, stunned into silence for a few seconds before she burst into a loud, wailing cry. Dad, look at her. She's taking an outsider's side over mine. Jiang Weidong rushed over, cradling Xiaoyu's face. Xiaocha, what are you doing? How could you hit your own sister over an outsider? Xiaocha stared at him, her eyes cold as ice. An outsider? We are the outsiders here. Have you forgotten? My brother is the one who took us in. Now apologize to him. Right now? Xiaocha, I'm your father. Apologize, she repeated, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. If you don't, I'll refuse to join any organization. I won't sign a single contract. My uncle's face went pale. He knew Xiaocha was the family's future now. She was the one with the power. He looked at me, his eyes full of resentment, but he forced a stiff nod. Fong Xin, I'm sorry. I went too far. Please, tell Xiaocha not to throw her future away. I didn't say a word. I just reached out and gently tapped Xiaocha's forehead. I hadn't protected her for nothing. She had a backbone, unlike the white-eyed wolf, crying in the corner. I'm hungry, Xiaocha, I said softly. Oh, right, she said, her expression softening instantly. I'll go get the food. Aunt Huilan wiped her eyes, looking at me with a mix of pain and pride. I'll cook 2 more dishes. We'll eat together. As they headed to the kitchen, I saw Jiang Weidong whispering to the sobbing Xiaoyu while holding an ice pack to her face. He glared at me. He clearly blamed me for everything. Don't worry, Xiaoyu. I heard him mutter. Fong Xin is just stalling. No one gets a good score without a potion. He'll come begging me to find him another one soon. I'll make sure he pays for that slap. I ignored them. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Aunt Huilon opened it to find a plump, jolly-looking man carrying a mountain of expensive gifts. Is this Jiang Xiaocha's home? You must be her mother. We're from the Tian'an Chamber of Commerce. We're here to discuss her future. He didn't even wait for an invitation. He shook my aunt's hand and squeezed his way inside with his assistants. Xiaocha, it's for you, my aunt called out. The fat man, Tong Fengwu, beamed as Xiaocha walked out. Miss Jiang, I'm the Lan City head for Tian'an. You know us, right? The biggest chamber of commerce in the district. Jiang Weidong's eyes practically turned into dollar signs. Welcome. Please sit. You're here for our Xiaocha? Indeed, Tong Fengwu said, leaning in. For a talent like hers, we're offering a luxury apartment in the most expensive district, a private car with a driver, and a starting salary of 800,000. That doubles in the second year, plus company shares after 3 years. My uncle nearly choked on his own spit. He was already dreaming of the high life. But before he could say a word, another knock came. This time, it was a sharp woman in a business suit named Li Yinxiao, representing the powerful Li family from the provincial capital. She didn't waste time. She looked at the fat man with disdain and then turned to us. Whatever the Tian'an Chamber offered, she said calmly, the Li family will double it. The room felt like it was spinning. My uncle looked like he was about to have a heart attack from pure joy. He was finally the father of a star. Then, a third knock. This visitor was different. He wore a formal uniform and carried himself with military precision. Chu Gang, captain of the 2nd Special Action Squad, 9th Office, 4th Division. I'm here for Jiang Xiaocha. The atmosphere shifted instantly. The 9th Office, the highest authority. Even the wealthy recruiters grew quiet. Captain Chu sat down, his gaze steady. The 4th Division would like to invite you to join us as well. The choice is yours. Jiang Weidong's voice cracked with excitement. Please, everyone sit. Let's talk. Li Yinxiao adjusted her glasses, looking at Xiaocha. In the end, it doesn't matter how much we argue. The decision belongs entirely to Miss Jiang. They all turned to look at my sister. They were fighting over her like she was a goddess, completely unaware that the real monster was sitting right next to her, quietly waiting for his dinner. Xiaocha looked a bit dazed. She knew high-level talent was a hot commodity, but she didn't expect these recruiters to start a bidding war right in our living room. She hesitated for a second, then looked at me. I'll do whatever my brother says. I froze. I didn't expect her to put that kind of pressure on me. The recruiters all shifted their gaze, their eyes drilling into mine. Li Yinxiao smiled, her voice smooth. So, you're the brother. Where do you think your sister should go? Before I could breathe, Jiang Weidong cut in. Why are you asking him? I'm her father. I make the decisions in this house. He grabbed Jiang Xiaoyu by the shoulder and shoved her forward. By the way, are you hiring? My other daughter has talent too. Captain Chu looked at her with a stone face. And her rank? C grade, joy type, my uncle said, beaming. Too low. Chu replied bluntly. The 9th Office doesn't take trash. The fat man, Tong Fengwu, saw an opening. We'll take her. Li Yinxiao didn't skip a beat. We'll take her too. And we'll still double whatever the chamber offers. The fat man groaned. Manager Li, why do you keep doing this to me? She ignored him and looked back at Xiaocha. The choice is yours, Miss Jiang. Xiaocha didn't even blink. I listened to my brother. You stubborn child. Jiang Weidong stood up, his face turning purple. Tong Fengwu turned his attention to me, squinting his tiny eyes. You're a student too, right? What's your name? Fong Xin, I said simply. My uncle leaned in, his voice dripping with fake concern. Can you check his results? Did he pass? Tong Fengwu chuckled, looking a bit embarrassed. Well, the list I have only shows C grade and above. Fong Xin's name isn't on it. The implication hung in the air. I was a failure. Anything below a C was basically worthless. Jiang Weidong let out a sharp, nasty laugh. He leaned back in his chair, crossing his legs. Below a C? Well, I guess you'll be lucky to find a job cleaning toilets. Xiaoyu smirked at me, rubbing her swollen cheek like she'd finally won. But then, Xiaocha spoke up again, her voice firm. Whichever agency takes my brother, I'll join them. The room went silent. Captain Chu was the first to break it. The 9th Office has high standards. We don't take low-tier talent. Tong Fengwu tapped his fingers, calculating the cost. He didn't think I was worth the investment. Li Yinxiao sighed. The Li family could take him, but his benefits would be minimal. Given his lack of talent, he wouldn't. A knock at the door cut her off. Huilan, get the door. Jiang Weidong shouted, his excitement returning. He probably thought another rich recruiter was arriving. My aunt opened the door to find a man with shock white hair wearing sunglasses and a sharp uniform. A beautiful girl stood behind him, carrying a briefcase. You here for Xiaocha? My aunt asked. Xiaocha? No. I'm looking for coffee later, the white-haired man joked. Is Fong Xian home? He is. Are you friends of his? Something like that. My heart hammered against my ribs. It was the man from the ninth office. How did they find me? Jiang Weidong didn't recognize the uniform. He saw the white hair and lost it. Fong Xian, you loser. You're bringing these thugs into my house now. You don't study, you just hang out with. He stopped mid-sentence. Tong Fengwu and Li Yinxiao had both bolted upright. They bowed deeply, their voices trembling. Mr. Zhuge. Captain Chu stood at military attention and snapped a crisp salute. Captain Chu Gang. Reporting for duty, sir. The silence was deafening. Jiang Weidong's smug smile froze on his face. He swallowed hard, looking between the white-haired man and the powerful recruiters who were now acting like servants. He didn't understand why a failure like me was being visited by a sir. What business do you have with Fong Xian? My uncle stammered, his voice suddenly polite. Zhuge ignored him. He walked straight to me and held out his hand. Zhuge Hang, 9th Special Action Squad, Tiandun Bureau. I shook his hand, my mind racing. I hadn't even used the enhancement potion. How did they know? What do you want? I asked. Zhuge flashed a dangerous smile. 2 things. First, I'm inviting you to join the 9th office. Second, I'm hungry. What's for dinner? Jiang Weidong couldn't help himself. The 9th office? Why would you want him? His rank isn't even AC. The recruiters looked at my uncle like he was the world's biggest idiot. The 9th office is the elite of the elite, Chu Gang explained, still standing stiff. They only recruit S rank and above. But his name wasn't on the list, my uncle cried. Because the 9th office encrypts the files of its targets, Tong Fengwu snapped. We don't have the clearance to see his name. Jiang Weidong's eyes nearly popped out of his head. Xiaoyu looked like she'd seen a ghost. My aunt and Xiaocha were shaking with pure, unfiltered joy. So, my nephew is a genius, my aunt whispered. Zhuge sat down like he owned the place. He awakened 5 different talents. Without using any potions, his highest rank is SS. He pulled out a small black device that projected a holographic screen in the air. It was my transcript. My aunt took it, her hands trembling. Jiang Weidong crowded in to look. 1 SS rank, 2 S ranks, 2 A ranks. Even his worst talent was better than most people's best. And he did it without the potion. If he'd taken the drugs, every single one of those ranks would have jumped up. I frowned. This was exactly the attention I wanted to avoid. Jiang Weidong looked like he was being strangled. He scrolled down to the 2nd page, which listed my family history. Grandfather, Fong Yingtai. Status, encrypted. Father, Fong Zhengping. Status, encrypted. Mother, Yi Rigia. Status, encrypted. I stared at the screen. My parents were researchers, so encryption made sense. But my grandfather? Why was his life a state secret? My uncle scrolled further to the current family section. There were handwritten notes next to the names. Jiang Weidong, Uncle Massive Idiot. Fong Huilan, Aunt Good Person. Jiang Xiaocha, Cousin Good Person. Jiang Xiaoyu, Cousin Little Idiot. My uncle and Xiaoyu turned bright red. Snap. Zhuge closed the device and tucked it away as if he hadn't just insulted the head of the house. He snapped his fingers at the girl behind him. Xiaolu. The girl stepped forward and handed me a heavy, ornate box. It looked expensive. It looked like my life was about to change forever. Zhuge Heng leaned back in his chair, rocking it back and forth as he opened the data entry screen. He looked completely relaxed, as if he were just waiting for a meal. I stayed silent for a long moment, my mind racing. Do I have to join the 9th office? I finally asked. The room went dead silent. Everyone froze. Tong Fengwu and Li Yinxiao, who knew exactly what the 9th office represented, stared at me like I had lost my mind. They probably thought I was talking crazy. Zhuge Heng stopped rocking. A slow smirk spread across his face. Most people would be setting off firecrackers at their ancestors' graves if they got an invite like this, he said, his voice amused. They'd want to wake the dead just to celebrate. You're the first person in history to ever say no to the ninth office. I shrugged, trying to keep my voice steady. Maybe the ninth office just hasn't been around that long. Tong Fengwu and Li Yinxiao looked at me with a mix of awe and terror. I could tell what they were thinking. Asterisk, this kid is a warrior. Or a suicide case. Does he have any idea who he's talking to? Asterisk. Zhuge Heng actually laughed out loud. You've got a point. The ninth office was formed at the end of the last century during the chaos of the gods. Its predecessor was the Shantang Organization, a name that used to strike fear into everyone, before it merged into the Tiandun Bureau. It's only been 92 years. He leaned forward, his eyes sharp behind his glasses. Technically, the rules say you can refuse. Anyone else could walk away. But you? You can't. My heart hammered against my ribs. Did he know? Had they found out about my slaughter talent? Why? I asked. Zhuge Heng flashed his white teeth in a grin. Let's talk somewhere else. Snap. He flicked his fingers. In the blink of an eye, the living room vanished. My uncle, the girls, the officials, everyone was gone. Where are they? I heard Zhang Weidong's muffled voice from somewhere far away, but I couldn't see him. The girl named Xiao Lu stood outside the shimmering barrier we had just entered. Mr. Zhuge is a high-level space-type awakened, she explained to my family. Some things aren't meant for outside ears. He's opened a temporary domain for a private chat. Inside the domain, everything looked like it was made of rippling water. The walls shimmered with a liquid light that made me dizzy if I stared too long. Don't be nervous. Zhuge Heng's voice came from behind me. It's just us. We can talk about family business now. I turned around. This white-haired man wasn't releasing any killing intent, but the sheer pressure of his presence was suffocating. It felt like the air itself was heavy. Do you know who your grandfather is? He asked. My grandfather? I replied, trying to play it cool. Yeah, he's my grandpa. Zhuge Heng let out a frustrated huff. Talking like that is a good way to get yourself killed. He dropped the playfulness and looked me straight in the eye. Your grandfather, Fong Yingtai, he never told you his real identity, did he? He was the head of the 4 great generals of the Shantang Organization. He was known as Emperor Fong Qing. I froze. I wasn't acting this time. I was genuinely shocked. I knew the old man was tough, but a legendary general? Memories flashed through my mind. My grandfather always claimed he was just a retired soldier, but he never mentioned his unit. He'd say he was just a regular grunt who wanted a quiet life in the countryside. When my parents died and I stayed with him, he used to tell me stories about the wars of the last century. He knew details about the Holy Light and Evernight armies that weren't even in the history books. And when he first saw my talent, the look on his face finally made sense. I kept my expression masked, a habit from my training. Emperor Fong Qing? Never heard of him. Of course you haven't, Zhuge Heng said. His name is a forbidden secret. When he defected from the organization, he dealt Shantang a blow it never recovered from. The chaos of the gods was a scratch. Your grandfather was a heart attack. He crippled them single-handedly. The shock hit me again, harder this time. That kind, gentle old man was once that powerful? My gaze darkened. So, are you here to arrest me for his crimes? Zhuge Heng laughed. Hardly. I'm actually a bit of a fanboy of his. Besides, he didn't defect because he was a traitor. The organization was rotting from the inside. Factions were fighting, and someone framed him for treason to get rid of a war hero. That faction eventually fell, and his name was cleared years ago. Then why the pressure for me to join? I asked. Zhuge Heng held up 2 fingers. 2 reasons. First, the man currently running the 9th office, Old Man Yi, was your grandfather's brother-in-arms. If you join, he'll protect you. Your path will be smooth. With enough merit, you'll rise through the ranks faster than anyone. You'd basically be the crown prince of the 9th office. He lowered 1 finger, his expression turning grave. Second, your parents. They were top-tier researchers. That car accident? It wasn't an accident. It was murder. I felt the blood drain from my face. They discovered something, Zhuge Heng continued. A way to enhance genes at a minimal cost. People wanted it. They staged the crash, but the discovery went missing. Some people think you have it. A man's innocence means nothing if he's carrying a treasure everyone wants. Joining us isn't just about your career. It's about staying alive. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, transparent sphere. He flicked it toward me, and I caught it. It was weightless. I'll give you 3 days to think, he said. If you decide to join, or if you find yourself in a situation you can't handle, crush that. I'll appear and save your life. I gripped the sphere tight. I needed to talk to my grandfather. I needed to know if any of this was true. How strong are you exactly? I asked. Zhuge Heng adjusted his shades. Before the chaos, there were 14 ranks: pulse, observation, river, all that. Now, we just use levels. With these glasses on, I'm a level 11. I looked at the sunglasses he'd been wearing since the moment we met. And without them, he didn't give me a number. He just shoved his hands in his pockets and flashed that confident, toothy grin again. Very strong, he said. Even though Zhuge Heng didn't give me a specific rank, I could feel the overwhelming main character energy radiating off him. He was showing off, and he was good at it. If you're really this strong, shouldn't you be stuck in some high-level office instead of wandering around? I asked, genuinely confused. Zhuge Heng flashed his white teeth in a grin. I have a nickname. They call me the 9th Office Street Runner. But this trip was worth it just to meet the grandson of my idol, Emperor Fong Qing. Where did my grandfather go? I pressed. According to the files, I checked your old hometown, Zhuge Heng said, his expression cooling. He wasn't there. I couldn't find a trace of him. I don't know where he is, I admitted. He didn't say anything before he left. Zhuge Heng laced his fingers behind his head and leaned back. Fine. That device Xiao Lu gave you earlier? That's a Tiandun link, developed by the Bureau. In the entire Tiandun Bureau, only new members of the 9th office get one immediately. New recruits in the other 8 offices have to pass a year-long probation first. He pointed to the briefcase the girl had been carrying. Once you register, you can use it to contact teammates, access classified files, and even scan other people's talent levels and combat power. There are other functions, but you'll learn those once you officially join us. Any other questions? If not, let's go out. I'm starving, and I timed this visit specifically for dinner. Wait, I said. My other talents. Why have I never felt them? Because you haven't truly awakened yet, he explained. It's like a sharpshooter who's never touched a gun. He doesn't know he's a genius until he holds the weapon. Even then, he needs training. After the talent test, the 9th office will give you specialized training to polish those skills. Anything else? Not for now. Zhuge Heng snapped his fingers. The world around us shattered like a broken mirror. When the pieces stitched themselves back together, I was standing in my living room again. The sheer scale of his power was terrifying. The moment we appeared, everyone in the room froze. Zhuge Heng didn't care. He pulled out a chair and sat down heavily. Auntie Fong, bring out the food. My aunt, Fong Huilan, was stunned for a second, but Zhuge Heng didn't wait for an invitation. He walked into the kitchen himself and started bringing out dishes. Smells great. I knew I timed this right. He set a plate down and looked at Tong Fengwu, Li Yinxiao, and Chu Gang. What are you 3 still doing here? Looking for a free meal? Tong Fengwu shook his head frantically. No. We're here to recruit Fong Xian's sister, Jiang Xiaocha. And you are? Mr. Zhuge? I'm Tong Fengwu from the Tianan Chamber of Commerce. Zhuge Heng cut him off with a groan. Oh, the profiteers. You guys love using contracts to trap kids from poor families into slave labor. Scram. Understood. Tong Fengwu didn't hesitate. Zhuge Heng turned to Li Yinxiao. And you? From the Li family in the provincial capital? More profiteers. You scram too. Li Yinxiao didn't dare talk back. He bowed politely and hurried out. My uncle, Jiang Weidong, watched this with his jaw on the floor. These were powerful men who ran the city, yet they were acting like servants in front of this white-haired man. Finally, Zhuge Heng looked at Chu Gang. Chu Gang stood up straight. 4th office, Chu Gang. I know who you are. Zhuge Heng shoveled a spoonful of rice into his mouth. Send the girl to the 1st office. They're short on psychic types. If she doesn't fit in there, then she can go to your 4th office. Yes, Mr. Zhuge, Chu Gang replied. Zhuge Heng looked at my sister Xiaocha. You okay with that? Xiaocha was dazed. She looked at me for help. Do what he says, I told her. She nodded quickly. My uncle, Jiang Weidong, suddenly spoke up. Can my other daughter join the ninth office too? He had been asking around about the ninth office while I was gone, and the answers had clearly terrified him. Zhuge Heng didn't even look up from his food. Which daughter? I've seen both. Your oldest is mediocre. Your youngest is worse. The guard dogs at the ninth office have B-rank fire talents. Any other questions? If not, let me eat in peace. The atmosphere was awkward, but my uncle didn't dare complain. Instead, he spent the rest of dinner sucking up to me. He kept piling food onto my plate with a desperate smile. Here, Xiao Xian, your favorite fish. Mr. Zhuge, our Xiao Xian has always been the smartest. Please look after him. Xiao Xian, do you want a drink? You're the hero of the family today. After dinner, Zhuge Heng grabbed an apple and headed for the door. 3 days, kid. Remember to give me an answer. Once he was gone, my uncle stayed in loyal dog mode. Xiao Xian, more wine? I bought the good stuff. I'm fine, I said, heading to my room. My aunt followed me. Oh, Xiao Xian, a package came for you this afternoon. I put it on your desk. I walked into my room and saw a small box. Inside was a phone. I recognized it instantly. It was my grandfather's. It was dead, so I plugged it in and waited. When it powered on, there was a single video in the gallery, sitting right in the center of the screen. I played it. The screen was dark and shaky. My grandfather's voice came through, sounding breathless and urgent. He was running. I could hear high-pitched, screeching sounds in the background. Xiao Xian, it's me. Remember 2 things, he said. First, join the ninth office. With your talent, it won't be hard. The head of the ninth office is an old friend of mine. He'll protect you. Second, before midnight tonight, stand in front of a mirror. Use your blood energy to activate your slaughter rune. Hold it for 30 minutes. I can't explain more right now. Don't lose this phone. I'll contact you. The video cut to black. My heart was racing. He was clearly hiding from something, but the video was too dark to see where he was. I watched it again, searching for clues, but found nothing. His message confirmed what the white-haired guy said. I should join the ninth office. But the second instruction, the mirror at midnight, what was that about? I checked the time. It was only 8 p.m. I had a few hours. I picked up the Tiandun link device Zhuge Heng had left. It was L-shaped and projected a virtual screen in the air. It was incredibly light. 2 buttons glowed on the display, identity registration and account login. I took a deep breath and reached for the screen. I tapped the screen to start the identity registration. A prompt appeared, telling me to face the center of the display for a facial scan. I aligned my face with the frame. The scan finished in seconds. Next, the system asked for an invitation code or the name of the recruiter. I hesitated. The white-haired guy had told me his name was Zhuge Heng, but I didn't know which specific Chinese characters he used for Heng. The dialogue box warned me that I only had one shot at this. Zhuge Heng hadn't left any contact info when he walked out. He and the girl, Xiao Lu, had simply used a spatial talent to vanish into thin air the moment they stepped through the door. All I had was that small spatial sphere he gave me to summon him. He told me to crush it if I was in danger, and I didn't want to waste that chance just to ask him how to spell his name. Besides, if I summoned him for a fight later, I could use that opportunity to see how strong he actually was. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Now that Qin Juanhao had been recruited by the 7th office, he was acting like he owned the world. His father had bought him a luxury car worth 7 million, and he was spamming photos of it in our class group chat to flex. Su Xiaoqiang was acting like a total sycophant, licking Qin Juanhao's boots in the comments. I just watched the 2 of them perform like circus clowns. Then a message popped up from Chu Xinyao. Student Fong, I want to go to the ocean theme park. Will you take me? Please. I remembered the potion she had given me earlier. I owed her a favor. I bought 2 tickets for tomorrow, took a screenshot, and sent it over. Wow. I knew you were the best, Student Fong, she replied instantly. By the way, the results were supposed to come out the day after tomorrow, but they leaked early. The school decided to release them tomorrow instead. I paused. I didn't expect the announcement to be moved up, but it didn't really matter. I already knew my results. Got it, I replied. Want to play a game for a bit? I checked the time. It wasn't midnight yet. I still had time to kill before I had to face the mirror like my grandfather instructed. While I was killing time in the game, Xiao Wudong from the 7th office was pacing around like a monkey that had just eaten mustard. He kept staring at Qin Juanhao's test results, looking like he was about to burst into tears. This shouldn't be happening, Xiao Wudong muttered. Ai Li, are you absolutely sure this Qin Juanhao is the guy you met in that alley? Ai Li looked up from her screen, her icy blue eyes indifferent. I think so. I don't really remember. Xiao Wudong rubbed his head so hard it looked like he was wearing a mask of pure agony. There's no way. A kid who barely hit the B-rank talent threshold can't have level 4 combat power. I thought I'd found a hidden gem and rushed to recruit him before anyone else. Now I'm the laughingstock of the office. And that idiot Qin Juanhao is throwing a massive banquet to brag about it. I swear, I want to kick his teeth in with my size 12 boots. Ai Li snapped her device shut, changing the subject. Higher-ups sent a mission. The 7th office needs to protect someone. Who? Chu Xinyao. I sent you the details. Xiao Wudong shook his wrist, and a holographic display projected from his watch. After the facial recognition cleared, his eyes went wide. Wait, she's the daughter of that big shot? And the remnants of the Eternal Night Army are trying to kidnap her. They want to use her as leverage to get classified intel, Ai Li explained. The Eternal Night spies have infiltrated deep. They're the ones who leaked the test results early. They want to muddy the waters and pose as recruiters to snatch up talented students for their own side. Xiao Wudong shook his head, then froze. They're sending a level 8 combatant to kidnap her? Ai Li nodded. That's why our team leader is coming personally. We need to move now and protect her from the shadows. Back at home, I put my phone down. It was almost midnight. I'm done for the night, I told my gaming partner. I'm tired. Going to sleep. Okay, good night. See you tomorrow. I stood up and walked into the bathroom. I stood in front of the mirror and channeled my blood energy. The slaughter rune on the back of my hand began to glow a deep, bloodthirsty crimson. I stared at my reflection, but nothing seemed different. I wondered what my grandfather expected me to see. The minutes ticked by. When the clock hit exactly midnight, I didn't look away. My mind raced with old ghost stories and urban legends, but the room remained silent. I kept staring for over 30 minutes, just like the video said. Nothing. I let out a long breath. Maybe I did something wrong. I decided to try again tomorrow. I turned to leave the bathroom, but the moment I shifted my weight, my entire body froze. A cold shiver raced up my spine, and the hair on my arms stood on end. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my reflection, but it wasn't moving with me. In the mirror, the other Fong Xian was leaning back with his arms crossed, wearing a chilling, knowing smile. My heart hammered against my ribs. A wave of icy dread washed over me from my toes to the top of my head. I slowly turned my head back to the glass. The reflection stayed still, watching me. He looked exactly like me, except for one thing, his eyes. They were glowing a piercing, star-like crimson, the exact same color mine turned when I used my slaughter talent. As we stared at each other through the glass, the reflection leaned back further. Suddenly, a throne made of blood-red stone materialized behind him. He sat down, resting his chin on his hand, his crimson eyes locked onto mine. He radiated a terrifying, kingly pressure that felt like it could crush the world. Surprised, a voice echoed directly inside my head. I tensed up, unable to believe what I was seeing. My reflection was talking to me. Of course I was surprised. Who wouldn't be? It took a long time for the shock to settle enough for me to speak. I finally asked the only question that made sense. Who are you? The figure on the blood throne looked at me with a lazy, condescending gaze. His voice sounded arrogant, as if everything in existence was beneath him. Who am I? That is a question worth exploring, he said. I have many titles. Judge Zero, the first of the 7 kings, the king of slaughter, the Godslayer. You could even call me the destroyer of gods. But I have a name you might recognize. He paused, his smile widening. Fong Xian. If you must know who I am you. A tidal wave of confusion hit me. My brain felt like it was about to short-circuit. This went beyond anything I knew about talents or the awakened. You're me? I didn't believe it for a second. I was just a student, a good student, sure, but a normal guy. The person in the mirror had an aura that felt like it belonged above the heavens. The reflection sighed, still resting his head on his hand. That's not a question worth wasting time on right now. With your current strength, you can only see me for 3 minutes. And those 3 minutes are almost up. Everything returned to normal. Exactly 1 minute and 47 seconds had passed. The figure on the throne looked at me, his expression turning serious. "I'll keep this simple," he said. "As a godslayer holding the slaughter talent, you don't actually understand your own power. You think killing just increases your combat strength. Did you know you can use slaughter to devour the talents of others? Or that killing enemies with the same talent can level up your own?" I froze. Aside from my light talent, every other ability I had came from killing. This was the true, terrifying nature of my power. "There's one more thing," he continued. "Your killings nourish me. I'm the king of slaughter, bound to you by a contract. If you're in danger, you can summon me for 3 minutes. Right now, I can only exert the power of a peak level 5. To call me, activate the slaughter rune, place your hand over your heart, and whisper the name, Sia." He leaned forward, his image beginning to flicker. "One more warning. You need to watch out for a certain person. The one who wants to." The voice cut off abruptly. The image in the mirror distorted like a television losing its signal. Who? Who do I watch out for?" I rushed toward the glass. The reflection moved with me. We stared at each other, both looking equally confused. The 3 minutes were up. Everything was back to the way it was. I leaned against the sink, splashing cold water on my face. My mind was racing. Who was I supposed to guard against? The warning was cut in half. The one who wants to. What? My mind immediately went to Chugahong. He was the only person I'd met who gave off that kind of overwhelming pressure. Was it him? I'd have to wait until tomorrow night to ask the mirror again. "Fong Xin, are you okay?" Gugu's voice came from outside the door. "Why have you been in there so long?" "Just checking my phone." I called back. "You kid," Jiang Weidong's voice chimed in, sounding like a total sycophant. "Let him be. Our Fong Xin has the talent to play whenever he wants. Let him enjoy himself." I heard my aunt, Fong Huilan, scoff at her husband's blatant brown-nosed behavior. Back in my room, I looked at the package from my grandfather again. There was no return address, just my name. I hid my phone in a drawer and stared out at the full moon. My talent could actually level up? I had never heard of such a thing in my life. The next morning, I was woken up by Jiang Xiaoyu screaming. Jiang Weidong had gone out early to buy my favorite buns, but he'd forgotten to get the milk tea Jiang Xiaoyu wanted. Emboldened by her decent test scores from the day before, she was pointing a finger right at her father's nose. "Why do you buy things for Fong Xian and not me?" she shrieked. "He just got a slightly better grade. Look at how you're acting. I'm your biological daughter. He's just a brat with no parents. Why are you spoiling him? You have no backbone. I'm your father." Jiang Weidong yelled back. "How can you talk to me like that? Just because you gave birth to me doesn't mean you're my dad," she screamed. Slap. Jiang Weidong finally lost it. He was a grown man, and that swing carried weight. Jiang Xiaoyu's Jade Beast talent didn't do anything to toughen her skin. Her face was practically knocked sideways. She went silent instantly. When I went out to eat, she glared at me, her teeth grinding loud enough for me to hear. She didn't dare say a word, but she kept slamming her spoon against her bowl. Asterisk clang. 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 Asterisk, Xiaoyu, what happened to your face? I asked, pretending to be concerned. Jiang Weidong laughed nervously. The girl was being disrespectful, so I gave her a little lesson. I immediately grabbed Jiang Weidong's hand. "Oh, uncle, is your hand okay?" It's fine, he beamed, clearly touched by my concern. I turned back to Jiang Xiaoyu. "Xiaoyu, you're a big girl now. How can you be so reckless? Using your face to hit your father's hand like that? Look, you hit him so hard you almost moved his career line." Jiang Weidong's face stiffened. Jiang Xiaoyu's eyes welled up with tears. She let out a sob and ran back to her room. "Look how happy she is," Jiang Xiaocha joked, stifling a laugh. My aunt poked me in the head. "You're so mean." "Mom, his tongue has been sharp for years," Xiaocha giggled. "It's not sharp," Jiang Weidong corrected her instantly. "It's called humor." I just shook my head. It reminded me of an old story I read about a man who became a high official and suddenly everyone in his family started treating him like a god. Jiang Weidong was acting exactly like that. "Brother, there's no school today. Where are you going?" Xiaocha asked. "Meeting a classmate to hang out." Right then, my phone buzzed. It was a voice message from Chu Xinyao. "Calling student Fong. I've left the house. Feeling good. Where are we meeting?" At the same time, In a high-tech command center, Xiao Wudo pressed his earpiece. Everyone ready. Chu Xinyao has departed for the marine theme park. The enemy is moving. Protect him at all costs. AI Li looked up suddenly. Team, one more thing. Qin Juanhao just booked a party for his classmates at the same location. I got off the subway and saw Chu Xinyao across the street. She was scanning the exit, her eyes lighting up when she saw me. She waved energetically. Waiting long? I asked as I walked up. Just got here. Let's go. She was wearing a short JK-style skirt with white lace socks and little leather shoes. She looked incredibly bright and cheerful. The marine theme park had only opened last month, but the crowds were massive. Ever since the awakening era began decades ago, animals had started gaining intelligence too, especially sea creatures. This park was famous for capturing marine life with unique talents. The building itself was shaped like a massive killer whale crouching on the ground. At the gate, the staff smiled at us. You too are lucky. Your tickets include free access to all services and shows today. The place was wild. Dolphins jumped from the water, waving their fins and shouting greetings in human slang. An octopus sat at a piano, playing a melody while blowing a wooden flute. I couldn't help but feel like the octopus was playing with a strange sense of violence, like it wanted to smash the piano at any second. There were singing jellyfish, starfish running along the seabed in tiny shorts, and king crabs waving their claws to take tips from tourists. I even saw workers with water element talents dressed in merman suits, dancing underwater with schools of fish. It was a strange, beautiful new world. The most popular attraction in the entire aquarium was the underwater arena. Right then, a seahorse clad in heavy armor and wielding a sharp spear was locked in a life-or-death struggle with an electric eel. The eel pulsed with blinding arcs of lightning, but the seahorse was a beast on the battlefield. After a few brutal charges, it left the eel shredded and bleeding. The crowd roared with excitement. I watched the fight, feeling a strange sense of irony. In this new world, even seahorses and eels were fighting like gladiators. On both sides of the arena, two seals beat massive drums, their rhythmic thumping fueling the violence. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would have thought I was hallucinating. What a coincidence. You guys are here too. I turned toward the voice. Qin Juanhao was standing there, surrounded by a group of our classmates. He wore a mask of fake surprise when he saw Chu Xinyao and me. Chu Xinyao's brow furrowed in immediate disgust, like she'd just stepped in something foul. Are you following me? Qin Juanhao didn't skip a beat, throwing his own father under the bus. Of course not. It's pure luck. My dad mentioned this place was interesting, so he booked the whole theme park for me to bring our classmates out for some fun. Fong Xian, what are you doing here? I looked him dead in the eye and started talking nonsense with a straight face. I saw a video online. They said there's a turtle here that can throw its own shell. The audience calls it the scapegoat turtle. I was curious, so I came to check it out. Qin Juanhao's face darkened. Beside me, Chu Xinyao was visibly trembling, trying her best not to burst out laughing. I usually couldn't be bothered to deal with Qin Juanhao, but whenever I chose to hit back, I made sure it stung. His loyal lapdog, Su Xiaoqiang, jumped in immediately. Fong Xian, who are you calling a scapegoat? I pointed past them to a thick glass tank. I'm talking about that turtle. Sure enough, a turtle was swimming at high speeds, but its shell hadn't kept up. The creature was frantically covering its lower half with its flippers, looking incredibly embarrassed as it paddled back to find its home. It looked ridiculous. Tourists were already snapping photos. I meant that turtle, I said calmly. Who did you think I was talking about? Is there another scapegoat around here? Su Xiaoqiang choked on his words, speechless. Qin Juanhao let out a cold sneer. Fong Xian, the results come out today. Instead of waiting at home, you're out here wasting time? My future is set. The 7th office has already recruited me. Someone like me can afford to relax. But you, like I said, I replied, my voice flat. I'm here for the show. Grades aren't as important as a good laugh. Qin Juanhao clenched his fists, a forced, ugly smile stretching across his face. There are only 2 hours left until the rankings are public. I heard you didn't even use your potion yesterday. I want to see if you're still laughing once the scores drop. He'll probably be the one we're laughing at, Su Xiaoqiang added, gloating. Suddenly, a piercing scream erupted from the arena. The electric eel, which had been losing, suddenly exploded with a blinding, violent surge of electricity. In an instant, the spectators in the front row were charred into black husks. The entire aquarium descended into absolute chaos. Then came a deafening crack. The shell-less turtle from before suddenly changed. Its eyes flashed with a cold, human-like ferocity. It gripped its shell like a discus and hurled it with terrifying force. The shell shattered the thick, reinforced glass wall instantly. The barrier collapsed. Millions of gallons of water began to surge into the park. The shell flew back into the turtle's claws, and it threw it again. Asterisk bang, 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 asterisk one by one, the glass walls were pulverized. Marine monsters poured out into the hallways. Panic turned into a bloodbath. Tourists scrambled for the exits, but the heavy steel doors had already been slammed shut and locked. The armored seahorse turned slowly. Its spear was leveled directly at Chu Xinyao. Nearby, Xiao Wu, disguised as a staff member, watched in horror. He clutched his head. Oh God, these Eternal Night remnants are insane. They sent an 8th-rank powerhouse and used a sacred relic disguised as a theme park, just to kidnap one little girl? Xiao Wu, get it together and protect her. A man in a sharp suit with gold-rimmed glasses appeared behind him. He was built like a tank, his eyes cold and steady. Chief, Xiao Wu cried out. The man adjusted his tie. The rest of you protect Chu Xinyao. I'll find the 8th-rank enemy. Xiao Wu and his team immediately began closing in on our position. The park was a war zone. I scanned every corner, my fingers tightening around the spatial marble Zhuge Hang had given me. If things got desperate, I would have to call that white-haired freak for help. In the midst of the carnage, several men in black suits rushed forward, forming a protective circle around Qin Juanhao. Qin Juanhao turned to Chu Xinyao, his voice shaking but urgent. Xinyao, don't be scared. Come over here. My father hired these experts for a fortune. My head bodyguard is a 3rd-rank awakened.